walking into his room, Hans sat down at his computer and pulled up a random video to watch. As Han watched the video, he thought about how he fell into this situation. He remembered walking into his apartment, where he and his girlfriend Beth lived, and noticed the extra pair of sneakers by the entrance. Slowly, his eyes raised and he saw the trail of various articles of clothing strewn across the floor, leading to the bedroom. Even though Han was a reasonably intelligent individual, the image didn't seem to fit together, and he attempted to create mundane scenarios that would explain all of this. Maybe his girlfriend was heading into the shower and didn't wait until she was in their bedroom. This would explain some of the clothing, but didn't explain the other clothing and extra sneakers at the entrance. Han could feel his heart starting to beat slightly faster, as if it already figured out what was going on before his brain did. As he entered the apartment, his heart felt as if it was going to explode out of his chest like some alien. Getting closer to the bedroom, Han could hear the sounds of moaning and squeaking of the bed. His hand seemed to move on its own towards the door handle and slowly opened the door. A slight noise was made as the door was opened, and for some reason, he thought that he needed to get some kind of lubricant and apply it to the hinges. It was such a normal thing to think about as the image of his girlfriend riding on top of his best friend came into view. His best friend glanced over at him, and a look of surprise came over him. "Oh shit!" his best friend Sam called out. Han's girlfriend, now soon-to-be ex-girlfriend, glanced behind her to see what Sam was shouting about and saw Han standing at the doorway. Her expression was identical to Sam's expression, though it was quickly replaced with guilt. Han didn't know what he was supposed to do in the scenario, though he had watched it plenty in various TV shows and adult content. Now this is how those people felt, Han thought as he remembered some hentai videos with NTR content in it. Though he always knew on an intellectual level that NTR was a hurtful genre, Han thought that the material was drastically better than other types regarding quality content. The idea that he would be in this position never seemed to cross his mind, and now that he was, Han felt a little empathetic towards those characters. Looking towards his girlfriend, as she desperately tried to put on clothes and erase everything that happened, Han said, "The funeral was really well done. I'm glad that my older brother was able to put everything together, 'cause I don't think I would have been able to arrange the funeral of my parents." Beth's hands went to cover her mouth as she listened to Han recount his parents' funeral. "I'm glad that you're feeling better and don't have a stomach ache," Han casually mentioned. "Han, I can explain this," Beth stammered, walking towards him. Seeing her walking towards him and glancing at Sam laying on his bed, Han said, "I'm going to get some food for myself. If you could, I would greatly appreciate if both of you were gone by the time I get back. Beth, you can take as much of your stuff as you can and leave your key behind. Since your name isn't on the lease, you don't need to worry about this month's rent. I hope that you can be happy with Sam, so please don't try to contact me, either of you." After saying his piece, Han turned towards the door and walked out of the apartment, leaving the door open. He could hear Beth crying while Sam was trying to comfort her, telling her that everything was for the better. Han stared at his food as he sat in a booth at his favorite local Asian restaurant. This establishment had great food for low cost. A simple beef dish with vegetables and fried rice cost around $7.50, and fountain drinks were just $1. The people that worked here knew him by name, considering how often he would stop by here, either by himself or with Beth. Thinking about how many sweet memories he made with her at this restaurant, talking about various nerdy things made him feel numb. The usual, "What could I have done?" and "Was this my own fault?" went through his mind. Considering how finding out his girlfriend was cheating on him was par for the course, he congratulated himself on handling this a lot better. A part of him thought it was amusing how this all happened on the same day he buried his parents. Seeing his parents laying in their coffin still hadn't quite hit him yet, and he had a detached feeling about everything. Han pondered whether this dazed feeling helped contribute to his mild reaction to seeing his best friend fucking his girlfriend's brains out. The irony of him enjoying Ahegao and NTR hentai and walking in on such a scenario wasn't lost on him. If it was a different guy, he admitted that he would find it hilarious. As he chewed on the food, savoring the various flavors and glad that at least one thing was going right for the day, Han thought he heard a ringing noise. As it got louder, his head started to feel like it was being squeezed by a vice. The fork in his hand fell onto the floor, though Han didn't hear the clattering of the fork. After the pain had receded, Han looked up to see a screen in front of him. "Congratulations! Based on the miserable life you've had and being able to stack so many horrible memories in one day while keeping a cool head, you've been selected to gain the creation ability. With this ability, you'll be able to manipulate a wide range of things and gain access to areas that no human has had access to. You are free to do whatever you wish, so please, do not feel chained to the common sense in your world and other burdens. This ability was selected to give you a wide range of experience, and there are no requirements or strings attached to this ability. We just ask you to try out new things and have fun with this ability." To access the creation ability, just imagine opening up a menu. Feeling a little confused by all of this, Han dismissed the screen by swiping his hand across the screen. Thinking this was very silly and just his brain decided to break, he decided to give it a try and see what would happen. At the very least, Han would just feel silly and would request the waitress to bring him a new fork to replace the one he dropped. He closed his eyes and tried to concentrate on opening up a menu. Feeling like there was something different about his body, he felt like something had changed, so he opened his eyes and saw a menu in front of him. The menu looked very basic compared to what he imagined it would look like, especially in games and anime and manga. Looking at the first two, create and modify, they seemed to be self-explanatory. Han didn't know what the last one, translate, meant, considering the multiple meanings of the word. Deciding to see what this option was all about, Han pushed on translate and saw a new menu appear. On the screen showed two options, destination and object. Just by guessing, Han determined that the word translate was similar to the mathematical concept, not the linguist form of the word. After pressing destination, a new menu appeared. With his action, 3 selections appeared. There was within current area, alternate area, and advanced selection. Pressing the advanced selection, Han was presented with a wide range of choices that could be shortened by certain criteria, such as fantasy, science fiction, advanced, magic, technology, basic, and etc. And a list of names with additional details next to them, with a brief description of the world. Han looked through the various descriptions and saw that there were some that were on Earth, but with slight changes to them. These were things like America losing the revolution, China sailing past the tip of Africa, Alexander the Great developing his empire with an heir, and more. Thinking what it would be like to visit those alternate realities was slightly tempting, but deciding to go someplace he's never been was his goal. Selecting fantasy, magic, and early development, the list of names changed drastically. Of the names listed, Han glanced at the world called Elytran. Upon selecting Elytran, a new menu appeared. There was a brief description saying, Elytran is a world that is similar to what many would consider a fantasy world, with ogres, elves, humans, beastmen, and other creatures. In addition, Elytran has a strong flow of mana, so magic is widely used and practiced throughout the world. All the main creatures have the ability to use magic, while many of the animals don't have this ability. There are many similarities to Earth, such as with some of the animals and civilization styles, but there are enough differences to make this world a good choice for those looking for something new and different. Many of the civilizations are still in their infancy, so there are no issues with overpopulation. There are several continents on this planet, and similar to Earth, there is an abundance of both fresh and salt water. If you're the type of person who enjoys watching and reading fantasy-related entertainment, Elytran is the world you should visit. The description was pretty entertaining, like going to a store and purchasing something while having the salesperson convince you about the benefits of the product. Feeling like this would be a great first world to visit, Han pressed on Elytran and confirmed his decision. He felt a slightly woozy feeling, and the room seemed to morph and change around him. Everything around him went black, and he felt like he was floating in space, though he had never experienced what space felt like before. After what seemed like a couple of moments, everything around him seemed to be changing again, like it had in the restaurant. Various colors were coming to focus, and slowly Han was standing in a grassy field under a clear blue sky. Looking around, he couldn't see anything aside from the field. Wishing he had a map, he brought up the menu to see if he could figure out where he was at. After bringing up the menu, he noticed a new option: Map. Thinking this was very convenient, considering how he had just wished that he had a map to view, he selected it. The map that came up looked like something out of a video game. It showed all the continents and various countries, though some of them were called kingdoms or empires. Seeing a blinking red dot, he assumed that this was him. Looking at the map, Han seemed to be inside the Helios Kingdom. Focusing on the Helios Kingdom made the map zoom in so it fit the screen. There were various villages, towns, and cities scattered throughout the area, with what looked like the capital city was a ways away near the center. The dot indicated that he was near the edge of the kingdom, somewhat close to a village. Part of him wanted to head over there, but considering the amount of walking he would need to do, he decided to look at the menu some more. Now that he's confirmed that this isn't all just a hallucination, Han decided to check what other abilities there were. The menu seemed to be rather adapted to his wants and needs, so he thought what else he could do. Bringing up the menu again, he selected Create, and saw several options appear. There were a lot of different options he could choose from, one of them being shelter. This brought up various structures he could create. Seeing stronghold as being one of them, he tapped on it. Various strongholds seemed to appear on the screen. Considering how he wanted some place he could feel safe, he looked at the selection and thought about one that was impenetrable. He wanted something that would never let armies be able to invade it, regardless of ability. Slowly, a bunch of images disappeared to be replaced by a handful of selections. Comparing each of the images, he decided to choose one that looked like a large vertical rectangular block. If you took a skyscraper and removed the windows and covered it in concrete, this is what it would look like. Based on his requirements, this didn't look like something that could be invaded since it didn't have any openings. Judging that there must be some way for him to enter, he walked towards the building. As he reached the structure, Han imagined an entrance for him to enter. On the face nearest to him, an impressive-looking staircase appeared, and a doorway seemed to appear. "This is pretty impressive," he thought to himself. Walking up the stairway, entering the structure, Han saw a long corridor appear with marble columns on either side spanning the entire way. There were fancy-looking globes that lit up the entire corridor. Looking down, Han saw that the floor was completely smooth, like polished marble with gray veins running throughout the floor. There didn't appear to be any spacing, like the entire floor was created from one giant slab. The walls and ceiling looked to be obsidian and contrasted perfectly with the floor and columns. Thinking about it, Han wondered if he needed to bring up the menu if he wanted to change anything. When he was approaching the building and thinking about an entrance, the building modified itself to his thoughts, so he thought it wouldn't be far-fetched to try changing parts of this structure. Looking at the globes, Han thought about hanging golden bowls filled with fire. The globes then changed to his thoughts, making the corridor look even cooler. Walking down the hall, he wondered what else he could change in the structure. At the end of the hallway was another staircase that rose up and split to either side, probably leading to the next floor. Reaching the second floor, Han saw that there were various supporting columns throughout the floor. Aside from the columns, there wasn't much else, and it looked rather dull. Each of the columns had a similar golden bowl on each face of the columns. Feeling like it looked rather empty with just him, he wondered if he could create something to help him. Just to test his ability, he imagined a hand floating in front of him. The hand would be as smooth and white as porcelain, with long, slender fingers. He imagined that they would belong to a beautiful woman. As his mind imagined the hand, he saw an actual hand starting to take shape. Just like he pictured it, the hand looked stunning, like those hand models on commercials, but several times better. Han looked at the floating hand and thought about it being alive. Slowly, the hand started to twitch and began to move its fingers, like floating jazz hands, and moved on to making a fist. Seeing that he was successful, Han thought about how it had a decent amount of intelligence, and after waiting a couple of minutes, he said, "Shake my hand." The hand floated to his outstretched hand and shook it. Han was surprised by how realistic it felt, especially how he could imagine that a woman was shaking his hand. There was a clear difference between how a guy's hand and a woman's hand felt, and this hand definitely felt like it came from a woman's. Releasing his grip, the hand went back to floating in front of him. Imagining it being erased, he swiped his hand and made it disappear from existence. After testing out that he had the ability to give life to his creations and seeing how difficult it was, Han decided to try creating someone to help him out. In his mind, Han pictured a beautiful woman around 5 foot 6 inches, a little shorter than him, with flowing brown hair that was slightly wavy and an oval face with an amazing face. Her body would be considered voluptuous, having gorgeous breasts and ass, with a slightly shorter torso and long legs. If someone from Earth saw her, they would probably think she was a high-class porn star. As her body began to appear in front of him, Han was definitely impressed with his imagination and glad he looked at plenty of adult content. Who would have thought that watching porn and hentai would help him create a woman from nothing? With the woman standing in front of him, Han began to give her a very high intelligence and made sure that she would be completely loyal and devoted to him. Learning from his prior mistakes with women, he was definitely not going to mess up this one. He pulled up her stats on the menu so he could tinker with it. After changing some things around, he finally completed her profile. In the menu option, he was given the ability to look at his creation and see all of her stats. He decided to give her the name Helania. Her race was dragon and perfect human. Her age was not applicable. To make sure that she would be able to be with him and complete tasks that he had in store for her, he had given her strength, intelligence, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, charisma, all at the maximum settings. With health, mana regen, damage, mana damage, and resistance, he had set to unlimited and resist all. Her abilities were transforming into a black dragon, lightning magic, void magic, fire magic, water magic, earth magic, time magic, charm magic, high defense, and spatial magic. There were probably other things he had forgotten, but he figured that he would be able to change it with this broken, overpowered system he had. Closing the system, he willed for her to awaken and watched as her eyelids lifted and showed a deep purple iris. He realized that he was holding his breath, seeing how amazingly stunning she was. From now on, you will serve me and fulfill all that I need you to complete. I have created you to be everything I don't have the time to take care of. As time goes on, you will develop a personality that will help me to complete all that I wish to on this world or any other world. He addressed his hopes to Helania. Helania looked at him, and once listening to his wishes, she dropped to one knee and exclaimed, "My creator, your wishes are mine only purpose, and I will complete them without fail."